I just got my Sirui Saturn 35mm T2.9 3 days ago, so it's time to create the ultimate anamorphic rig. Why not use the Sony A7 IV I already own, or maybe another E-mount camera, or maybe my Blackmagic camera. Open gate 3x2 mostly, because with the most popular 1.6x squeeze lenses, by popular I mean the cheapest, you get exactly 2.4:1 ratio cinemascope in this mode. Such cinemascope footage could be comfortably watched on 21:9 monitor with just small black bars, and our brain connects this look with the cinema movies, although wider aspect ratio too. With Sony's 16:9 and this lens you get 2.85:1. With FXX in 4K DCI mode, which is 17:9, you get your final ratio around 3:1, so really wide footage, because for anamorphic shooting, the taller the sensor the better, and in this case it is actually wider. The examples shown are shot on S5IIX in different resolution and ratios, so you can clearly see that switching from 3x2 causes to lose top and bottom of the frame, because used sensor area is just shorter or wider, but never taller. Sure, you can crop to desired ratio, but this way you lose resolution and you have to be aware how to frame your shots, because some parts are going to be discarded. And from 3x2 open gate I can crop to any ratio I want, because I got 6K to crop from, not 4K as with Sony cameras for example. The only downside of using 6K open gate in S5 II series is 4:2 long GOP format. That's the only limitation of that camera in my opinion, apart from rolling shutter. With S5IIX I can also shoot RAW with anamorphics, so then I lose the benefits of shooting 3x2, but it is definitely more flexible than any camera in this price range. Of course you can shoot RAW and then crop to desired ratio, but this way you discard some pixels as mentioned before. If this is for YouTube, then the resolution 6K is probably a better choice than RAW, because YouTube is going to duck up your footage anyway. But if this is for further delivery or production, then the choice is kinda hard, probably RAW is more important in that case. Anyway, this time I wanted a bit more robust rig, and since I'm not recording via HDMI, I wanted to record to SSD, although you can record 6K open gate to SD card too. So I opted for the Smallrig cage. In the kit you got cage, cable clamp and top handle. With the cage I can use even larger monitors than Atomos Ninja V like my Andicini, but to have the rig smaller I'm using Atomos so far, and I'm using Samsung T5. For the filters I'm using Tilta clamp for the minimalistic option, and of course Sirui 35mm Saturn T2.9 with neutral flare. As always, all used elements are in the description down below as affiliate links. So the cage comes with the tool. There are two locks on the sides which clamp to the strap handles on the camera. Put the camera inside like that, then screw in this screw, but not tighten it. Then this lock. And now the camera is securely attached to the cage and it's not spinning. And do not bother with the flap, because it won't get in the way. And my USB cable of choice is actually Amazon Basics one, because it got the proper length. And the caveat is, when you install the drive, then the mic jack is covered, so you have to plug the mic jack before you put the drive here, and also you have to use the 90 degrees angle mic jack. So now the cable clamp. So now the top handle, and now the Atomos. I have chosen different mount option this time. So this one got RE locking pins, so could be mounted either here, but I like it mounted in front of the handle. You can use this with a suitcase grip, or you can use it like that. And the last thing is to connect the lens. Now the stepping 58mm ring for the filters, and the Tilta clamp itself. And done. Horizontally it is like 22mm spherical lens, but vertically it is equivalent of 35mm as it says on the lens, with the compression of 35mm. So actually the look is kinda different than shooting on 22mm or 24mm spherical lens and crop it in post. And can you guess which one of these clips is shot on an anamorphic lens and which one is just a spherical lens footage which is cropped to the cinemascope? Let me know in the comments down below. And this small rig allows 6K OpenGate 3x2 log recording to the SSD. It is also very light, just around 2400 grams. As you can see, quite nice coincidence is that with Tilta clamp the rig is leveled, so you can put it on a flat surface and start shooting without the tripod. Of course, if I want more filters, I can easily put Tilta Mirage on the lens and it looks even cooler. And the most important, if it gives the shade for the lens, because it's very prone to flaring, and I do not mean anamorphic flares. So that could be mounted directly on the lens, and that way you can mount 5 filters at the same time, because this is this 2-stage version. And with the MatteBox, it weighs 2600 grams. Instead of a MatteBox or Tilta clamp, you can also use screw-in ND filters, but do not use step-up rings, just one that goes directly from 58mm to whatever size your filter is, mine is 82, because if you use step-up rings, you are going to get the heavy vignetting. You can live without follow focus, but for any focus pulls, I will recommend getting one. And for installing the follow focus, 2 rods are always a much better option. To mount the follow focus, I got the rods on a Baseplate, and to mount it, I have to mount the Arca Swiss plate at the bottom. Then I can mount the MatteBox on the rods. If you got MatteBox on the clamp, the whole rig is more rigid because the rods works like a tension box. And now just adjust the follow focus to line up with the gears on the lens. And that way we got the whole rig with the MatteBox follow focus. Now it is much heavier, it is almost 3400 grams, but this is the complete setup with 5 stages of filtering if you need that much follow focus and ability to record to SSD. Of course, with 6K OpenGate, you can still record to SD cards if you want. Maybe you prefer this, so you can then remove the hard drive clamp and the hard drive and USB, and this way you got power solution. So maybe it is actually better option, more streamlined and be a bit lighter. And you can probably get away without the monitor because Panasonic S5 II cameras have a really bright screen. Without the handle and the monitor, camera, the cage, the lens and the drive clamp is only 1600 grams, so 3.5 pounds, really light. I think the expression cinematic look is overused, but actually when we see anamorphic footage from even cheap setups like this, our brain automatically associates the look with a movie. I'm not saying you need an anamorphic setup to make your footage look good. It is not the hardware, it is always the person to create the look. I'm just presenting one of the cheapest options to get 2.4:1 look with kinda proper squeeze ratio. There are cheaper setups with APS-C cameras and 1.3x anamorphics, but I think this one gives the best value for the money. Anyway, this setup is very fun to shoot. Maybe the lack of other codecs than long GOP in 6K OpenGate is a bit limiting, but still 6K footage in CinemaScope looks very impressive. The minimalistic version of the setup without the MatteBox and the follow focus is just 2400 grams. And yesterday I walked with it in my hand for more than 2 hours without a sweat. I had to switch the hand from time to time, but generally it was very light. Any cons? Not a deal breakers, but worth mentioning. How easy is it to focus with this simplified version without the follow focus? It is not that easy, because when you de-squeeze the footage, it becomes smaller, especially on the Atomos. Even though Atomos got 1.6 ratio de-squeeze, the image does not cover the full width of the screen and is really small. And the focus picking on the Atomos is not that precise, so it is kinda challenging task. My 7-inch Andicini monitor is not better than Atomos because in the anamorphic mode, it loses the ability to zoom in. I can zoom on Atomos Ninja to X2 and Shinobi actually allows X4 zoom. Also, focus throw on this lens is only 120 degrees, so it's not that impressive. And what about image stabilization on this rig? I have used anamorphic stabilization mode, but unfortunately S5 II series does not have 1.6 option, so I use the closest 1.5. Not sure if this impacts the stabilization or not, the wrong ratio, but it looks like it is not as good as with spherical lenses, so maybe. I wish Panasonic adds 1.6 stabilization and the squeeze in the firmware update. Although for this squeeze it's not that crucial, 1.5 is close enough for monitoring. So this is anamorphic rig on a budget. The whole setup is less than 4400. A bit more if you want follow focus and full MatteBox. And so far, I'm really happy with that rig. I've been playing with it for 3 days. Although this lens has some limitations and cons, like the closest focus distance or focus breathing, but I will share more about the lens in separate video. So happy shooting and cheers, mate!